I'm Kartini Samon. I'm a regional staff for GRAIN. It's a small international organization that works to support farmers movement and other social movement in the protections and advancement of community and biodiversity-based agriculture. I'm based in Jakarta, but we are a very decentralized organizations, and most of the work are focusing on Asia, Africa, and Latin America. I think when we talk about datafications of agriculture, you have to go back a little bit on the intellectual property rights of genetic resources. That's when it sort of started. When communities are being asked to map their own seeds, their own resources in the place that they belong, and then it's being put online or through different international institutions, but then it's being captured by corporations who took that data and then patent it and make it as their own seeds and biodiversity. And in the same time, that goes parallel with the changes of regulations, how the state are also rewriting regulations to prevent farmers to exchange seeds with their farmers. So they're being obliged to buy seeds from corporate. During over the years, I think it changed in a lot of ways. Also, for example, when Monsanto buys one of the biggest climate data, everyone was asking why. Or what are the purpose, but also you see the climate situations are affecting agriculture directly. Agriculture is a sector that depends very much on climate. So you have to know the data of climate if you want to improve or increase your productions, your profit, etc. And so they're capturing what's like a pretty much a public information of climate that can be or should be used for the benefit of small-scale farmers, of fisher folks or small food producers on understanding the different changes of climate or soil and how they need to adapt to that situations using their own traditional knowledge. For example, communities knows what kind of rice that is more drought resilience or can take saline water. For example, I've seen experience in Java, but also people are sharing about what happened in Philippines, for example. But this has been very much captured by corporations, and it's really when things are like public information are being captured for profit use, it's always a problem. In agriculture, also in the recent years, we see a more concentrated corporate power. For example, within the value chains or within the food chains. Or food distributions. One of very interesting examples is we are already being captured by corporations. Only like 30 companies owning 1/3 of the whole value chain, supermarkets, mini mart, etc. But the changes within e-commerce is it becomes smaller numbers. Now you can say there's only 3 companies that pretty much controlling e-commerce and food, which is Alibaba, and then you have Amazon's that has taken over Whole Foods and creating a new trade war between with Walmart that is being threatened, and then they are also taking over a lot of online platform like Flipkart or Rakuten in Japan, and so they are now becoming like big three of grocery retails, merging between the brick and mortar and also with the online platform of e-commerce. But that's not just the case, because when you see this e-commerce, what happens is they need to maintain their supply. Because one of the very interesting examples that I read recently is how JD.com is saying that in 2 days, we can deliver any fruits or vegetable from anywhere around the world to the doorstep of every Chinese citizens. And to think about that, there's a lot of infrastructures related to that. It's not just like one click and you got food magically delivered to your doorstep. It's the whole chain of warehouses, of roads, of ports, etc. And now they're making sure that it's being integrated. So there's a whole process of integrating physical structures to serve digital trading. And the question is, who are being replaced in building ports and building roads and building, big infrastructures to maintain this trade process happening. Not to mention as well is trying to regulate trade agreements that allowing that process to happen. So it's a very complex situations that we are living today. And for examples, um, when Alibaba start to distribute, because like in 2008 there's a big scandal of milk poisoning in China. So food safety is a very big issue for people in China as well. So Alibaba said, okay, we will make sure that you will get as fresh of produce that you can get. What they do is actually they buy their own farmland or dairy farm in New Zealand. Now they have around 29 farms in New Zealand, and within 2 days, those fresh milk are being delivered to their stores in Shanghai and all the big cities in China. So it's not like they're buying stuff from the local. It's not like they're encouraging or empowering local productions of farmers, but they set up their own supply chains. That's why they can control the price very low. If you see the competitions between grocery retails and the actual market, the price can vary very big. And so the question is, why can that happen? Is also because they own the whole supply chain. And so that is sort of like creating unfair competitions with small scale producers and traders, informal traders along the supply chains of food and agriculture. So actually, the small dairy farmers in China is having a lot of loss over the past year. They complain a lot of even though it seems the economy of dairy is increasing in China, but a lot of farmers are being suffered because of this unequal competitions. And then when you reflect to other countries, for example, India, where majority of dairy farmers are like backyard farmers, they only have like 1 or 2 cows, and you have the whole cooperative that relies on these millions of small-scale dairy farmers. And you are facing with this tech giants that can go through all different regulations because, for example, when you talk about e-retail, where is the regulations, national regulations on food safety for food are being transported cross-border? That question's one question. And another question is, in terms of vertical integration farming, also the questions of human. Now there's a lot of being promoted is the robot farm, the automatizations of agriculture. We see in Vietnam, where like countries where almost 80% of the communities are rely on agriculture, they're heavily promoting this digital farming. And this digital farming can be operated and can be controlled from Japan, for example, which is because Fujitsu owned the farm. What happened, it's not just, it's eliminating a space or source of livelihood for local people, but also the question how you control something from cross-border. And so it's creating what we see as a new form of land grabbing. You don't have to be present because land grabbing now are being very much targeted. Corporation comes and take over lands and creating tensions with locals. But now, how do you face with an enemy that you cannot see? If somebody is sitting in Japan and taking over a huge tract of land, and then without you knowing who owns that, who are behind that, and who are you challenging, and it's completely eliminating a lot of source of livelihood for local people. So that's a lot of questions that we have in at the moment is how you balance is the growing technology, the growing of digital economy with a very basic livelihood of small-scale farmers, informal traders, food artisan that basically just produce food and then selling it on the street. So those are the questions that we need to see, I think, in this era. I would say probably the platform in that context, and I don't have the answer now. But for example, if you, because communities are like farmers learn from other farmers. That's the best way for them, rather than someone from the university or from agriculture ministry goes to them or companies. But what you can think is how this information in terms of facing climate change, what seeds are work better, what kind of local pesticides that's not chemical based that you can use to challenge, how can use this different sharing of knowledge, of informations among different communities, and how we can use a platform. I've seen, it's too bad that now people are farmers usually most like Facebook, on sort of sharing informations and practices of doing agroecology, of small scale backyard farms, that exchanging informations, and okay, what to do if you face this kind of pest, what to do if you can, you have this kind of situation. So I think we need to think of alternative platform where that situations can be enabled in a way that not being easily captured by corporations, in terms of like India are very rich of traditional knowledge, of traditional herbs. Indonesia as well. Now we're fighting with Japanese because they're taking over our traditional herbs. Very famous. It's called jamu. It's different traditional medicines, and they're taking that and they want to patent that. And we said, no, this is something you shouldn't be patent. This is something that communities should share as a part of solidarity. How we bring a platform where solidarity is should be the key of answering as an alternative against corporate capture.
Thank you. That was great. We just have one last question.
Okay.
What brings you here to the JNC? And given this context, what do you see as the intersection of digital rights and social justice?
I think one of the things that brings me here also, trying to understand, and I said it in the first, is how we balance between the growth of technology and digital that we cannot avoid, with with the protections of small scale producers, informal traders along the supply chain, and really working together. I've seen experience in the informal traders in India, um, um, that challenging the acquisitions of Amazon's against Flipkart. I mean, those things happen, and you have to start talking to each other's, or else you don't understand what's the problem, what's the issue, and how we can sit together. And also, um, I mean, I felt like sometimes like digital activisms all often very much focus in urban areas, and so how you bridge between urban and rural issues of social justice within this different scope of activisms.